Welcome back to WRPL, the podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
How you doing, Steve?
I'm good, Ben. How are you?
Merry Christmas, Steve. I mean, it's not quite there, but it's the holiday season.
It is. And holiday season means holiday movies, which I don't care about typically, or Oscar season, which is pretty exciting.
That's very true, yeah. So welcome back to episode 58 of WRPL. We're going to be talking about Bones and All and Violent Night. A few other things to talk about, so let's just get into it.
Well, real quick, I have a I just have a quick story I'd like to share.
Sure.
So today I helped out at a craft fair as like a fundraiser for a camp I've been a part of since I was 11. And normally I wouldn't bring this up, but I had a nice moment with someone that I just wanted to share. That is movie related. So a lot of the volunteers were campers when I was an adult counselor at the camp, and now I haven't been at the camp in the past 3 years just because of COVID and work stuff and wedding stuff and yada yada yada. Anyway, so I'm working at my station, and one of the teenagers comes up and he like looks familiar, but I couldn't quite place him. Like obviously I'd seen him at the camp, but I couldn't remember his name. And he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, you're Steven, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's me." And he's like, "You taught the film class at camp that one year, right?" And long story short, as a film fan, I was like, "Oh, I'll try and teach this film class, and we'll like make a quick little short film, and it'll just be like a fun thing to do with the kids." And I didn't think it really went all that well, just because like I don't really have experience teaching, and it's very hard to like do a short film in a small amount of time, like we did. But I made it work, and I like edited the thing, and like I let the kids shoot it and kind of come up with their own story, like kind of what we do here, where it was like I made them write something, just anything they wanted to down, and then we'll put it into like a hat and we'll jumble it up, and like we'll make a script out of like this random idea. And it was about like a Martian man and a girl with fire powers who team up to defeat an evil villain kind of thing. And that was the movie. But anyway, he comes up to me and he's just like, "You taught that film class at camp like years back." He's like, "Yeah, that was me." He's like, "Well, I just want to let you know that you inspired me to like go into filmmaking."
Wow.
So he's in college now. It's his first year. So he's taking general studies, but he's taking film electives and stuff. And my heart just felt so full because I was like, I didn't think anyone liked that class.
Yeah.
Because at the kids' ages are kind of like an age where just like things are starting to be like dumb.
Yeah.
But he was one of the younger ones, and he was like the kind of the star of the movie. And he was just like, yeah. And I made a short film and stuff, and I put it on YouTube, and he like gave me a little like business card he printed out at home with like his like film company not company, I guess. I don't know, but and it was just like the coolest little thing that I had. And but then that he was leaving at the time, he was just like, "All right, man, see ya." And then he walked away. But I was like, I'm gonna go watch his kids.
Yeah. How was it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna watch it.
Plug it or anything? You want to give out that information so other people go watch it, or
maybe next time.
Okay. Let's see if it's absolute garbage first.
No, I don't expect any student films to be great, especially your first one. But it was just super cool that
awesome.
That I could do that especially since I never really considered that. I didn't think that would be anyone's gateway into filmmaking. Really, it was just like it's just a fun thing I wanted to do because I like movies. I wanted to talk about movies with kids. But yeah, it was really awesome to hear that. And I hope he wins every Oscar and Emmy in the future. And I'm rooting for you, kid.
All of his speeches, he's going to point at the camera like, "This is for you, Mr. Steve."
I doubt it. But anyway, so it was super, super nice and made my whole day.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. I don't think I've inspired anybody to do anything.
You inspired me to do this podcast.
Oh, no, I kind of forced you into it.
Touche.
Okay. Well, I'll put away the gun now.
Anyway, let's get started.
All right. So before we get into all the stuff, a bunch of trailers dropped.
A ton of trailers.
A ton.
First, we got to talk A Man Called Otto starring Tom Hanks.
God, I couldn't finish that trailer.
I mean, I did watch it, but I don't care about that movie at all.
Not at all.
It reminds me of it's like not a less fun Larry Crown. It'll be the Tom Hanks movie no one sees except for like your grandpa.
Yep. Yeah.
So
skip it. Yeah. The first one that I saw was the official Super Mario Brothers trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie looks great. I
I
think
do
it's
too.
going to be a whole lot of fun. I think they're nailing it. They're throwing in, Mario Kart stuff. There's a couple of like Smash Brothers moves that he does. I am very excited for this. And especially since it's like from Illumination, who
Hmm.
don't make anything special or good.
Just 12 Minions movies or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
So I was kind of bummed when I heard that it wasn't going to be like a Disney or a
Mm.
Pixar or something. Like, man, the Minions people, they're going to ruin it. And no, I think they're nailing it.
Yeah.
But I do have one complaint.
Okay, what's the one complaint?
I don't like Peach. She sounds weird. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, I think when I heard Anya Taylor-Joy was going to be it, like, oh, that sounds perfect. But now when I hear her voice without her face, and I know that she is a smoker, she's a little raspier.
Okay.
And I don't think she's playing up the, oh my, aspect of Peach. She's just talking as Anya Taylor-Joy.
Sure.
Whereas Charlie Day, his voice kind of already lends to that kind of heightened emotion, screamy guy. I think she's going to end up being the worst voice in this because I actually did not mind Chris Pratt's Mario in this trailer. We hear a little bit more, and it has a little more of an inflection to it. So it's not perfect, but I'm kind of over it. I'm fine with it.
I mean, I think we talked about it on here, like seeing the teaser trailer. I immediately liked how it looked animation wise, and then the internet blew up about Chris Pratt's voice and all that stuff, which was just fine to me. Whatever, who cares? But yeah, this trailer really surprised me, and because I didn't know they were going to go the full the whole Mario spectrum, we got it covered, and it just makes me wonder, if this is the Nintendo Iron Man, where it's like this is the Nintendo extended universe, and we're bringing everyone in.
100%.
I'm interested to see where they go. I'm not saying I'm excited to see what they do, but if this is the first huge hit of the Nintendo universe, I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited.
And I think it's easy enough to do. You have a post-credit scene where they're all just chilling by the beach, and a shooting star comes out of the sky and hits. And they're like, what is it? And it's just Kirby, riding in on his star. Boom. Little teaser, little tie-in.
I'm here to talk to you about the Smash Brothers initiative.
And like you have warp pipes. They could take you to Hyrule or, one of the Metroid planets, whatever. I don't care. Just get us closer and closer to a Smash Brothers movie. And I don't even need Melee, Ultimate. I don't need everyone. Just that original roster. If you get those people in a movie together, I'm fine with that. That's because there'll be enough cameos. If you're gonna have a Pikachu, you're gonna see a Charizard or a Pokemon trainer or something in the background. So yeah, 15 years, they'll announce the Smash Brothers movie for sure. But what would be next? What would be the second one? Is it Legend of Zelda?
No, I think that's that one's both the easiest and the hardest because it's like there's so much you could do with Legend of Zelda and so much you could pull from, and it's the second biggest franchise behind all the Mario stuff, I would imagine, or third behind Pokemon.
Yes.
But the problem is, for the past 30 years of gaming, they just can't give Link a voice.
Yeah, and except for the Smash Brothers. Yeah.
And that, even in this newest ones, they've given Princess Zelda a voice, and Ganondorf, I think, has a voice. They can get, but they just can't. It's like, if we give Link a voice, it's over for us or something.
I don't get that. Who cares? Just give him a voice.
Yeah.
Why does he have to be silent?
I don't understand it.
And I think when it comes to making a movie on that, they're going to have to get over it. You cannot have your protagonist just be silent.
When they're making billions of dollars, I'm sure there's fuck it, who cares? We'll cast Chris Pratt as Link too.
Yeah, he's everyone.
He's so cool.
So yeah, I'd say you'd probably do Legend of Zelda because that's easy. Fantasy's popular right now, and then the third one would be Metroid because then that's what a different take. It's a sci-fi kind of horror thing.
Yeah, I think Metroid would be the most. I'd be the most interested to see just because it's so much different than the other cutesy sort of even though Legend of Zelda has so much dark stuff, it's still very kid friendly. Where Metroid's kind of gruesome, but not in a kids can't watch away.
Yeah, I you could make that movie PG-13 or even R if you wanted to, but I could see them pushing for this is.
I know. I think you could make it good as PG, but I think the problem with Metroid is it's the lowest on the bill in terms of popular franchises, I think. And
it's one of their big ones that they always seem to release a new one
no, I
for
mean,
every
obviously
system.
it works because
So
it keeps coming out, but I just think like name a cat like I mean maybe you can because you're a weirdo, but I think the general public can't name like Metroid characters other than Samus because
yeah,
Samus was in like I think most people wouldn't know Ridley unless Ridley until it really came into the Smash
sure.
Brothers
I'm
game.
in with Metroid. There isn't a ton of supporting characters, especially in
Right,
those early
exactly.
games.
Yeah.
It's just Samus, but that you could easily fill out her world. And I think I've even said it on the podcast before. Like have her on a day off at an F-Zero track. And Captain Falcon is just the hot shot guy, gets first place, and he hits on her, and she humiliates him,
Yeah.
makes him look like a chump. And then the Star Fox gang, they're just in the background. It's your cantina scene for the Metroid movie. And then boom, you've already added 2 other franchise into this world without having to do too much. And then if you look at that original Smash Brothers roster, all you're left with what is Ness to figure out. And
No,
then,
no one
and
wants
then
that.
nobody does, but he would be probably your intro character for that Smash Brothers movie. I'm just a little boy doing a weird thing, and I get sucked into this crazy
Oh, he's like the
world.
audience, he's
Yeah,
the exposition
he's
guy.
the POV
Yeah.
character.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's what you do. So yeah, I'm calling it. 15 years from now. So let's see. 15 years, 50 episodes a year. So episode 1000, we will be announcing the Smash Brothers movie. Oh my God, 15 years from now. It'll be so old.
All right. Well, I think that might be a fun activity, whether on the podcast or not. Let's pitch the Nintendo Cinematic Universe,
Sure.
and we'll just.
I mean, I think we did a pretty good job right there introducing it. So
Yeah, I mean, we had the movie set up, but I'm saying like, what's the plot of these movies? I don't know enough about Star Fox or Metroid. It's like we can probably figure it out after like a quick Wikipedia. You know, we're those guys.
So other trailers that came out: Indiana Jones Indiana Jones 5, Dial of Destiny. I don't like that title.
No, I'm not a huge fan.
And I've been hearing people going like, "Ooh, finally a good name." Like, what? This Dial of Destiny? I don't know what that is. Like, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I could kind of like get that. Last Crusade, that's pretty vague, but it's just an adventure term. Temple of Doom, okay, but Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, Dial of Destiny is the worst one.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar. It's not a Fountain of Youth or something that's just everybody's heard about. Like, is this a new thing? Is this something? Yeah, I don't know. But I think this looks pretty okay. No, it doesn't. Yeah. I think it looks too much like Crystal Skull because it's just that clean, polished.
Yeah, it's a little
modern.
Too glossy for me.
But it's been what 30 fucking years since Last Crusade. So
yeah, I'm good. It'll be interesting to see how they blend the CGI and practical effects because it seemed like there's some chase sequences that look like they're shot kind of in the old style. But I mean, they're de-aging Harrison Ford in some or all the shots. I don't really know
because he looks pretty good. When he showed up, I was like, oh, he's not like this horrible crypt keeper looking monster yet. Because I know he's in his 80s now. I expected him to look really rough, but he looks pretty good, and I'm sure that's some digital trickery. But yeah, he looks good.
I mean, I'll see it. I wasn't the biggest Crystal Skull hater like a lot of people were. I didn't find it to be an atrocity to the franchise. Like there's some stuff in it that I'm like, that was a poor choice. They shouldn't have done that. But I found it an entertaining film, and I'm sure this will be as well. But it'll just be one of those things where it's like, did this? I'll be questioning if it need to be made by the end.
Yeah, especially when it took so long to get that part 4. And then it's taken so long to get to part 5. It's almost just like we're getting a new Tron eventually. And like, really? You didn't capitalize last time. Now you're just digging into any old property.
Got to keep that IP.
Yeah, and it's just it feels desperate. But I know Harrison Ford loves this character more than any other character he's done. So he always gives a little more of a performance. And he's been kind of like a sad, grumbly man for the past few years. So it'll be nice to see him, give a shit. It's not. Is it Spielberg directing this one?
Yeah.
Wow, this
Spielberg directed all.
Spielberg's been like working. He did West Side Story and Fablemans, and then this.
And it's like back-to-back Oscar contenders.
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana Jones won't be an Oscar contender, but Fablemans and West Side Story, and Spielberg's getting up there. But I mean, he doesn't make bad movies really.
There's a ton of them I haven't seen. Like, I never saw War Horse and. the post.
Yeah. I mean, there's movies you can go like, well, that wasn't for me, but just objectively bad, and he doesn't really do that.
Except Ready Player One. That's like his worst movie. Very bad movie.
I disagree, but
we got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer.
I will say I can't do a whole deep dive on this trailer because I only watched it once because I was like, that trailer was great, and I don't want to like watch it a bunch of times and like think about what's going to be what. But I mean, I wasn't in love with the intro, like the Drax like throwing the dodgeball at the kid like at 200 miles an hour.
Sure,
it's like that's a fine joke.
But I like the like, oh look, we're coming to a suburban neighborhood, and you think it's just them coming back to Earth, but they're all weird, alien
creatures. But yeah, I thought like the trailer was really well edited,
good music,
as always. But just looks emotionally crushing.
Oh my god!
Like everyone's crying and screaming. I was like, oh my god! Like this is wouldn't it be great? Like because James Gunn is done after this one, and obviously they can all come back, but they always kind of seem like when James is gone, like we're not really going to do like Chris Pratt. I think would take the paycheck.
Oh, for sure.
But like, what if just everyone died? I think it'd be awesome. I mean, I guess you could probably keep Groot around too because it's just easy to. It's like
and you could atomize him, and you got one twig, you're good.
Yeah, but I want to see, or if they don't die, or if some die, whatever. I just want to see them like go off into the distance and like never come back to the MCU. Like maybe you do a scene where it's like a cantina scene where someone's in space and they walk by and you see Star-Lord and Gamora like having a drink in the background or something. Sure. That's fine, but I don't need a whole like. I hope they never come back.
Yeah, they don't need to come back to Earth and be like, well, now that the Guardians broke up, I guess I'm an Avenger now. No.
Or like, look, Gamora and Star-Lord had a son. I guess they're the new Guardian, the Kid Guardians or whatever.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. The only thing I want to see.
Oh, wait, that'd be funny. It's like they adopt. Oh, like the Guardians started an orphanage, and then they raise heroes, and like they're the Guardians of the galaxy because they're parental guardians now.
That's funny.
That's funny. Funny.
I want to see Groot meet Man-Thing. I just want to see like two plant people like.
Vibe.
Yeah, it's like you're not a real plant, and like, well, what the fuck are you? And would they be friends? I don't know. Just want to see them like shake hands and like cross pollinate, and I don't know. But
MCU's first true gay couple
with a live plant scene, live plant sex scene. This looks good. Like you said, it looks heart wrenching. Everyone's screaming and drooling over themselves, and I know everything with Rocket is going to be the worst.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he has a little otter friend.
Oh yeah.
This is like, oh, that's adorable. Like the two of the cutest animals just hugging. I love it. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I there's part of me that just wants to talk about like every shot in that trailer, but I'm gonna save it.
Yeah. And then we got Transformers. I'm gonna say 6. No, 7 including Bumblebee?
7 including Bumblebee, yeah.
Okay, Transformers 7, Metal Monkey Mayhem is what I'm calling it. Beast Wars?
Yeah, Beast Wars.
Yeah. Did you watch the show?
I did. Beast Wars was a regular show in my youth.
Mm-hmm.
It was always in rotation. I remember having toys. Like I had Cheeto or whatever his name was, and I had
Chester.
And I had there was a cool one. It didn't make sense really, but it was I think his name was like Silverfang or something, but he was like a wolf with eagle wings. They did like animal hybrids at one point.
Okay.
And I had a tarantula transformer, and like there were some really great toys, but the show is atrocious looking, especially like now in comparison to that. Like Coco Melon is better looking than Transformers Beast Wars. That being said, this trailer didn't really do anything for me because I've abandoned the Transformers franchise a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean I've seen them all, but I think I've seen them only, except for maybe the first one, I think I've only seen them once. It's like, that's enough. Why would I ever revisit it? Mm-hmm. They're all awful. Even that first one. The first one is quaint looking compared to how like the extreme like visual noise that the later ones become. But I think this looks better and more in line with Bumblebee. It's not as chaotic, but I still just don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see the last night. I guess that's the only one I didn't see. But
I don't know if it's worse than the one before.
hated Age of Extinction.
That is a really bad
which
one.
I was like wondering, like as I watched this trailer, I was like, oh, there's some cool animal stuff in here. I was like, what if they're doing what they did with Transformers Age of Extinction, where it's just like, oh, we're gonna show a bunch of the Dinobots, but really they're only gonna be in like 4 minutes. And I know because this is called Beast Wars, and I guess we're not focusing on Optimus Prime. We're focusing.
He's there,
but he's still there, obviously. Yeah.
And is this going to be the one where Bumblebee finally like sacrifices himself for Optimus or some dumb shit? Because it seems like they one or both die in every movie.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, I just don't care. The Bumblebee movie I thought was fine, but I also have just written it off like it's forgettable to me.
Yeah.
It was better than others, but it wasn't so good where I was like, yeah, I need to come back to this franchise just in case. I don't care. If it comes out and reviews are solid, or if there's just like nothing else, or I guess we just have to talk about it on the podcast, I'll see it, but I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, not at all. And our last trailer is the official Last of Us trailer. Good trailer. I didn't love the trailer though.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm hesitant. I don't know. Maybe it's some of the comedy didn't land, but I wasn't as gaga for it as I was with the trailer. Especially like that last
teaser,
shot. Yeah, the teaser. The last shot of the bloater coming out of the ground. Because I'm watching it. And, it cuts to black, says the name, like, okay, and then here's the sting of a bloater running through a wall or something, and then here it is on fire. It was just obvious and kind of ugly, kind of looked like Resident Evil, the newest movie.
Okay.
But I think sets, it all looks like the game. But, and I'm excited for it. I'm going to watch it. I watched this trailer once, and it didn't make me go like, I'm going to watch this 10 more times.
Yeah.
I'm excited, but I'm going to be apprehensive. Just I don't want to get my hopes up too much.
I mean, I'm still excited, and I don't know if you paused it or saw it or like went through the comments and like people pointed out. It was cool kind of seeing Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker in the trailer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Troy Baker is like one of the guys who's part of I forget the guy in the Snows crew. So I think he's playing a bad guy.
Okay, cool.
And then Ashley Johnson, I guess there's a quick scene of like she's the one crying holding a baby. So I think she's playing Ellie's mom. And I was like, that's fucking cool.
That's nice.
So I'm guessing she gets her own like solo backstory episode, or at least like some
that'll probably be
flashbacks.
The same episode where we see when Ellie gets bit. It'll be like the beginning of her life and then catching us up. It'll probably be like episode 4.
Yeah. But that's
cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until like as soon I watched the trailer and scrolled through the comments. And like, did you guys see this? And I was like, oh, and went back and looked at it again. But anyway, I agree that the bloater looked Resident Evil-esque, but I don't know how it wouldn't look Resident Evil-esque. Yeah. And I'm glad that it's there, but I don't necessarily. Me personally, I don't want to see it like pull off part of its body and like throw spore bombs. Mainly because I always thought that was the most unrealistic part of and I know it's like from a gaming perspective, it makes sense. It's like here's this thing that's like super strong and it's like
it needs an attack
and it needs something else other than just coming at you. Now if it's like one of those things where like they shoot it and like spores explode and like people get caught on that, I'm cool with that because that would make more sense. But it to be sentient enough to go like I've developed this ability and now I'm going to chuck grenades at you just seems silly to me.
Okay.
So me personally, I mean I could be wrong that they might present it in the show in a way where I'm like, okay, I believe that or that's cool, but spore bombs aren't for me in terms of like translation to screen. But I enjoyed the trailer. I'm still excited. My only concern is when you do these post-apocalyptic shows and like the Walking Dead type stuff where everything is just like shot in the woods and it's dreary, like visually that can be somewhat boring. Like when you gray it up or like do
sepia tones,
like certain color tones and these kind of things. Just like this doesn't look. It's like it's easy to make it look cheap, but the fact that it's on HBO and I'm hoping like the grand scheme of things, it looks great. But yeah, I mean, I'm still excited. The trailer didn't make me less excited.
Yeah, I'd say that. That's fair.
So, but I'm also waiting for it. I'm not going into it thinking it's going to be perfect.
Sure.
And there's going to be clearly good. There's going to be a lot of changes. Just from the trailer, you can tell things are different, but they still managed to recreate tons of stuff from the game.
Yeah.
So it's like it's all there. So I'm hoping it's great.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So let's get into it. We're already like at 25 minutes here, so we should get going. I'll start.
Okay.
So I'm playing God of War. Thank you, Steve, for letting me borrow your game and saving me $60. I'm loving it. Just like the previous one, I'm having a good time. And at first, it took me a minute to get used to it again.
Yeah.
And just, your attacks are your shoulders. I keep wanting to hit X
Me too,
to
yeah.
do something, and I'm getting my shit rocked. And oh fuck, that's aim, that's block. But then after I've died for the millionth time, and I come back to a fight, and then I just wreck shop, I'm like, oh, I get it now. It just all lines up, and everything starts making sense. And then you're buying moves, and you're like, fuck, I'm not going to remember that. And everything is just like, there's 4 buttons and what sort of combination to do it. Like, oh, well, this one, if you're rolling and press it, it will do this move. If you're rolling forward and press it, it does this other move. Okay, if you press it, then hold it down, or if you hold it down and then press it again. And it can be confusing to remember, well, what does what again? But it's also very impressive that they have such a huge move set, and it's just like 4 or 5 buttons for everything.
Yeah.
It's genius.
It's yeah, like you said, it's impressive that they can take something. It's like, because other games would be like, you need to use your entire what do you call with the symbols? Because there's the D-pad, and it's like, what do you just call those? The
buttons?
Well, but they're all buttons.
Well, yeah, I don't know. The face buttons?
Oh, what? Okay. It's just like, you have to use all those, and you have to use the 4 triggers, and while also like, oh, you have to hit left, right, up, down, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like, it's like, well, we want you guys to have all these different options. Like, well, yeah, but we're going to do that and just make it as easy as possible. And then you just kind of like, as you go through the game, especially like later game, you've mastered all that stuff. You know what buttons do what. I mean, there might be certain moves that you totally forget how to do because there is kind of so many, but that's the genius of like when you buy the moves and they give you incentive to practice the move to make that move even stronger. It's like, oh, well, now I can kind of master the game as I go. And
it's really
really
once
smart.
You unlock all the moves? Because I haven't come across anything that's like, hey, you use your R2 button a lot on the Blades of Chaos. Do you want to upgrade this at all? I haven't come across any of that yet.
Well, if you go on the menu, it'll say, like, certain moves, they don't do that.
Okay.
Like, just pressing R2 doesn't do anything. It just says, like, purchased or whatever.
Okay.
But it's specific moves where it's just like, if you're running at if you're running at an opponent and you press R1 and you jump in the air and attack, like, that's one. And it'll say, like, 3 of 25, and then once you get that kind of unlocks it to where it's like, now you're in the bronze tier. You do it another 25 times, that takes you to silver.
Okay.
And then once you do that, you're in the gold, and then you get the thing. So like, you have to do it quite a bit, but there's certain moves that you're gonna get through that in no time.
I'm not super far, 8-9 hours in, having a good time. I think the armor is better in this one. It's less bullshit. But sometimes I hate, like, oh, I'm upgrading this. And I just picked one because it had really good defense. I was like, I don't need to be good. My attacks don't need to be high because I can just spend time wearing an enemy down. I can deal with that. I need to be able to absorb damage because I'm really shitty at blocking sometimes.
Sure, yeah.
So I pick one, and it's not like the best looking one, but I've just like kept upgrading it and upgrading it and upgrading that. I was like, well, I hope something cooler doesn't come along because it may have some interesting stats, but it's lower. And now I'm kind of stuck with this ugly looking armor the whole time. But it's better than last time. Until I'm done, it's hard to talk about all the things. But
yeah, it's like, I want to talk story stuff with you, but it's like, if we're going to dive in, we might as well just dive in for the whole thing. Because like, the story's what you're here for. Like, the action is, fun, but the story is what it's all about.
Yeah. And I'm very much the type of player where you open a door, you walk in, gotta look left, gotta look right. Are there chests down secret hallways, that you can't see? And this game is all about, go around this other corner. I bet there's something there. And then you go around a different corner and, oh shit, that's the story corner. Do I want to backtrack? Do I need to?
I backtracked all the time.
And I have to stop myself and go, I'm going to come back here again because I see that there is you said there was a third weapon that I get because there's these little gas things coming out of rocks or like the gold fissures or whatever.
I'll never tell.
And it's like, okay, so clearly I'm gonna have to come back for this. I'll do cleanup later. But
I mean, some of that's just like some of that is story driven, and some of that is like, oh, this is just to get you to another chest. To everything with of that. What that is not inherently story stuff, but there is story stuff with it.
And all the puzzles so far have been really easy, but very annoying at times. Like there's one, you know how you could reflect your axe off the
that's the hardest one in the game, I would think. Like that area is just like it's a little annoying.
And it's just like, oh, you got to turn that shield. And I'm looking around like, I don't know what else to do. I'm moving the statue left, I'm moving it right, and then like, oh wait, I see a little bit of green in there.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Oh, you got to bust the wing off. Like, I can't.
I was there for like 10 to 15 minutes.
It was so fucking. I'm going around the room and trying from every different angle, and I've done that on multiple puzzles now, and it's like this is. I should be able to get it.
Alfheim is the worst in terms of that. I think like I mean, there's probably other stuff in the future where you go like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? But Alfheim has the most continuous, like the whole level is that. It's like, Jesus Christ, I just can't wait to get done with this.
Yeah. And I was really kind of bored in the beginning with all the snow. Everything looks the same. And I was getting turned around and like, oh, this is really dull. So as soon as you got out of the snow, I'm like, oh, thank God that there's some color to this. There's something a little bit more. Oh, I'll tell you the part I'm at. I'm at the dog sled. I just got onto the dog sled.
Okay. Well, I mean, the opening sequence has a dog sled, so that doesn't really help.
Yes, I'm in the opening sequence, Steve. I've gone this far, and the second dog sled.
Okay.
You don't remember that?
I mean, I remember being on the dog sled, and you're on the Lake of Nine and doing all that stuff. But if you're talking about a specific scene,
it seems like a more of a desert, like snowy desert.
Oh, okay. Sorry. When you those weird alien dogs are. Because they're not like regular dogs.
No, but
that's what. Because like there's the dog wolf like things in Midgard. So when you said dog, I was like, yeah, you had those the whole time. But you're saying the other creature dog. That's
the
dog,
other
like,
things that look like dogs that are pulling a sled. Yes, those other ones. So yeah, we'll talk about that when I get done. You know, in a week, maybe, hopefully.
I have faith in you.
As long as you try.
I mean, you don't have Walking Dead to waste all your time with.
No, anymore, but you know, Andor's done, and there's no Marvel show. I did start Willow though.
I'm probably gonna start this week.
Yeah, it sure is a fantasy show. It's YA fantasy more than hard fantasy, where people are like, "I totally was gonna do that, Mom." I'm like, okay, they wouldn't say totally in a like medieval sense. So
doth thou totally do that, mother?
Yeah, and so it takes you out when people are just kind of like talking normal, and then you have someone else who's very regal and, you know, being more, let's say Game of Thrones like, and then you just have like, whoa, Mom, chill out, dude. No, it's not that bad, but it just feels like young people wrote it. It's fine. So I've only watched the one episode, but it's fine. I'll continue, but
I've kind of seen mixed reviews where I think like older fans were kind of like maybe looking forward to more of a, because I mean now that they've grown up, it's like, well, we want Game of Thrones, we want Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff, but it's like, well, this was a silly fantasy movie in the 80s. It's like we want to attract new viewers because most of the people who saw this when it came out are fucking dead.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna make it YA.
Yeah.
And
it makes sense.
But like I hear once you see the whole season, it's like, okay, you really gel with the whole thing. But like from a first episode or two, it's just kind of like you got to get used to this idea of like it's not all about Willow. It's about this group now.
Definitely not all about Willow.
Willow's just kind of like the legacy character in this new adventure. So.
It would have been nice to see what they would have done with sequels if they would have just capitalized on it back in the day, because it's a little shocking that, you know, it came out in '88, and then all these years later, like, damn, Willow's in his 70s, damn, Mad Mardigan's in his 70s, Sorsha, they're all old as hell. So it would have been nice to maybe have something when they were still young and fresh and do some stuff and really build out that world. But whatever.
Yeah. I mean, with the success of Top Gun Maverick, I imagine we're just going to get a ton of like well, it worked for Top Gun Maverick, so we're gonna bring back things from 30 years ago that hasn't had a sequel.
Hocus Pocus 2. Anybody want that? Oh, here it is. Did it make an impact? No. All right, on to the next thing. What's next? I can't wait until it's 40 years from now and people are like remaking Battleship, and it's like, that movie wasn't really good, but in hindsight, and how Battleship lore has only expanded in the years, that we could really make a true Battleship movie. But
I can't believe I watched Battleship.
It could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot better.
That's more important to me.
I don't know what aliens have to do with Battleship, and the fact that he doesn't say, "You sunk my battleship," is pretty egregious. But all right, Steve, you watched a movie. Why don't you tell us about it?
I did. I watched The Banshees of Inisherin, I think is how you say it.
Inisherin?
Inisherin? Sure. So this is a dark comedy written by Martin McDonagh. Yeah. I always get him and the Martin who's in all the...
Martin Lawrence.
No.
Martin Starr.
He played the... I think it was something Dungan or whatever in
Dum Dum Dugan?
Dum Dum Dugan, yeah, in Captain America. He had the big mustache. He was in Band of Brothers.
Like 3 weeks ago when Nick was here, because I can't remember his name now.
Anyway, I'm just going to say Martin McDonagh. If that's not right, I apologize. I'll look it up. But he is the guy who wrote In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths and 3 Billboards Outside of
Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah. Which In Bruges was one of those movies that I think I saw on like IFC channel and like really just thoroughly impressed me. I was like, this is funny, this is dark and fucked up, and just like I love that movie. And Seven Psychopaths was a movie that I only watched once. I remember liking, but if you ask me to describe the plot of that movie, I have nothing for you.
No.
I remember really liking Sam Rockwell, but I like Sam Rockwell and everything.
That was just like because we worked at the theater when that came out, and it was like, well, this is a movie, let's go see it because it's free.
Yeah.
I have no expectations for it.
And then 3 Billboards was probably might have been in my top 10 of that year. I'd have to really go back and see.
Best Picture that year?
It did not win Best Picture, but Sam Rockwell won Best Supporting that year, and I think Frances McDormand might have won Actress that year. But anyway, so he's a writer-director who I really, really enjoy, so I went into this, like, not just from the trailer, I was like, I'm going to see it because it's him, but I don't expect much from it, and I think that was the best way to go into it, because I think this is his least accessible movie, and also least funny of the 3.
Okay.
Not that 3 Billboards was a bunch of laughs, but there was like some good bits
moments.
in there. Yeah. And I mean, this movie did make me laugh at times. There's some funny stuff. And there's some clear, like, he loves violence, and it's not a violent movie, but for anyone who doesn't know, basically this guy doesn't want to be friends with Colin Farrell anymore. And he's like, if you talk to me, I'm going to cut off my finger. I'm going to cut off a finger every time you talk to me. And to try and like prove to you how serious I am. Like,
wow.
He's like, I find you boring. And I don't hate you. It's nothing against you. It's just I
need you out of my life.
I need peace so I can like I'm heading into like the later years of my life. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be around. I just don't want to hear bullshit.
Is he annoying?
No, he's
really.
Well, I mean, everyone kind of thinks everyone kind of calls him dull. Like everyone's like, you're a super nice guy. We all like you, but you're just not the most fun to talk to. Like, but
Is he a Debbie Downer, or is he just so dull and has nothing to bring to the table?
Yeah, well, it's like he's not self-aware of it, and like Colin Farrell in this movie is great, and he has a lot of he does have a lot of personality for someone who is supposed to be like dull. He's never boring. Like for the most part, you're always kind of like on his side, but you also get where Brendan Gleeson's coming from, and because Brendan Gleeson is being 100% like straight with him, he's saying all the right stuff. He's like. He's not like, I mean, the first day he kind of dodges me, but like when he sees him again, he's like, "Hey man, I apologize. I shouldn't have come at you that way." And he just has like an honest conversation. It's like, "This is what it is. I just want peace and quiet. Just please leave me alone." But like Colin Farrell just can't do it. Like every day he goes to him, is like, maybe this will work to get him to be nice. Like because he doesn't have any other friends really. He's just got his sister, and it's just like, I don't understand. It's like look, man. And he like kind of gives it. He's like, even though he says like, I'm going to cut off my finger next time you talk to me. He gives him another day or two where he's like, he still comes to him. He's like, hey man, like, let's work this out. He's like, I don't want to work it out. I don't understand why you're not getting this. And so he cuts off a finger. But then there's one scene later where he's like, the next time you talk to me, I'm going to cut off all four of my four remaining fingers on just the one hand. And he kind of like calls his bluff, and they like have a very nice conversation. And he's just like, Colin Farrell walks away from that situation thinking that, all right, he got his friend back. And then the next scene later, you just hear like four thumps on the outside of his door. And then there's just, and they're walking by, and he just sees like the stub of a hand, and then he's like going to the bar, and he like doesn't patch it up. He doesn't like wrap it up or anything. He's at the bar with a bloody stub of a hand, just like flinging it, like trying to play a fiddle without his hand. It's so weird and absurd. In terms of dialogue, because it's so Irish, I was sometimes it was hard to say like, what does that word mean? Or so you had to like hear it a couple more times in like context. It was like, okay, that's what they're saying. So there's sometimes I was like, I don't even know what that sentence was. And Barry Cogan, or how do you say it? Coogan, sure. He was in the Eternals. Yeah. He's in this
Joker, future
Joker, and he plays kind of like I assume he has like special needs, but he's kind of like who Colin Farrell's character goes to when he can't talk to his buddy. So they're just kind of like two sort of outcasts, but he's like very inappropriate, and he talks really loud and says inappropriate things. And he's banned from the bar on the island because he's just like, last time you were in here, you got too drunk and you were like inappropriate with women and tried to like touch him or something. So anyway,
this is Barry Coogan.
This is Barry Coogan's character. So like, and he has like a huge crush on Colin Farrell's sister. And so he's saying inappropriate things to her and everything. But there's a part in the movie where it's like you kind of are like not necessarily on his side, but he has like his sweet moments. Like there's no, even though there's characters who aren't making good, smart choices, like no one's really like inherently bad. So it's just like just a fun little dynamic on this island. And one last thing I'll say about the movie is the movie started and I was like, oh, this movie's set in modern day. There's like the Irish they're such simple people, at least on this island. And then it wasn't until like 20 minutes in the movie where like Colin Farrell's looking at a calendar. It's 1923. And I felt so stupid. I was like, oh, this makes more sense. Because I just thought they were like the Amish of this part of
little island, and our lives are simple.
Yeah, because it's like you go to a foreign country, like they have these old timey homes that were built in like the 20s or whatever. So I just thought like, oh, they just live a simple life. But nope, it was 100 years ago. And I guess against the backdrop of like this is when I guess the Northern Ireland and the rest of Ireland are going into that Civil War thing that's still going on today. And I guess the whole movie was just kind of like an allegory of like brother against brother and like violence against each other. And like sometimes like they thought like even though by the end of the movie, are you going to say it?
I mean, it's coming to HBO, so probably.
Okay. So. I mean, I would recommend it if you're a film fan. If you're a casual viewer of movies, it's probably not going to be for you.
Okay.
Yeah. I would recommend probably his other three movies over this one. But yeah, I guess it's just kind of like, sometimes these relationships don't mend and there's nothing you can do about it and you just kind of go on with your day. But I enjoyed it. But I don't think I think Colin Farrell could probably win supporting actor. I don't know exactly who he's up against. I imagine this movie will get a Oscar nomination for script. But I think that's about it. I mean, it'll probably get nominated for Best Picture, but that's
to fill out the 10.
Just to fill out the 10, yeah. I don't think if this movie wins anything, it'll be those two, and that's it.
Let's see. We'll save that for... Okay, I watched the Netflix original series Wednesday. I have a special connection to this show. I'm a huge Christina Ricci fan. Obsessed fan. She was my first like movie star crush. So when Addams Family was the movie that made me have a crush on her. So I've been kind of very fond of that Wednesday character and goth girls in general. So when they said they were going to be giving her own show, I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, oh, and written and created by Tim Burton. Like, oh, fuck. Even though it makes sense, you would think Tim Burton would have done Addams Family. It
Hmm.
just seems like that's in his wheelhouse, but it's not. And I think we're better for it. So I was a little wary, but I gotta say, I kind of love the show. I think in other hands, this could be really cringy
Hmm.
and really just eye rolling and unwatchable. And it has its moments of stupid jokes, and the typical things like, oh, well, she's going off to school. So who are we going to pair her up with? Well, her exact opposite, someone who loves colors and wants to hug and is just bubbly and fun. And, of course, that's what you do. And I think this could have been a CW show that's just almost embarrassing.
Right.
But right from that first episode, they introduce a ton of characters, a ton of plot. Everything is set into motion really well. It's a well crafted show when you have all these balls in the air and you have so many characters that you are interested in right from the get go. And some don't do as much as others, but it's just a very realized show. Quick synopsis: Wednesday, she's a little difficult, to be around.
Shocker.
Yeah. She's, as my mom would put it, she's a real pill. Um, so, like her brother gets picked on, so she throws piranhas in the pools and attacks the swim team. And she's been expelled from 8 schools in 5 years, and no one could handle her because she's just, such an independent thinker. So they sent her off to Nevermore, the school for outcasts. Her mom and dad went there. That's where they met and fell in love. And her mom was like queen bee of the school and head of the fencing team and everything. So it's like, how can I live up to her? Plus, she wants me to follow in her footsteps, but I don't want to be a mother and a wife. That's not for me.
Did they ever explain why they didn't send her there in the first place, or was it just because like there was other schools closer to where they lived? Was that the
I think
explanation?
they are far away. So
Oh,
it's not right down the street. But yeah, they really don't cover why it's like, okay, you are a family of weirdos. You know that you don't quite fit in with normal society. This is where you would go. So no, they don't really cover that, but
okay, fair
it
enough.
doesn't matter.
Whatever.
But one thing I do like about the show is in the Addams Family world, it was always these were, they're creepy and kooky and they know it, but it's not a big deal. They interact with the rest of society, even if everybody thinks they're kind of weirdos. But in this world, it's the spooky stuff is a lot bigger. So there are vampires, there's werewolves, there's sirens and gorgons, and they all go to the school. Those are like the 4 main cliques. But then you have some people with telekinesis powers and some people are
Hmm.
shapeshifters. And it's not like confined to just this school. People in the world know that these things exist.
Okay.
So there is a neighboring town, and they're like, oh, you guys are freaks, but the town would be nothing without the school because all the money that gets
Right.
funneled in, supports them. So it was nice to see that like people are aware that yeah, monsters exist and that's just the world you live in. So there's
Now
a
are they like, for lack of a better term, racist towards these? Or are there certain people who are like, oh,
no
I'm anti-Gorgon or whatever? Or is it
no
just like we're all cool with it, just don't like bite my neck, vampire?
there are like the townies who are just like, oh, you guys are just a bunch of freaks, but that's all it is. You're freaks. You're
Mm.
different, and it's not. Well, I like vampires, but I hate werewolves. You don't get any of that. It's just like anybody who goes to that school, you guys are weird, and we don't like you because you're weird, and that's about it.
We don't care that you're a vampire. We
Yeah,
just
we don't
think
care
you're
that
an
you're
odd.
bloodthirsty monsters or anything.
Okay,
You're
fair
just
enough.
weirdos. Um, so there's a ton going on. There's a monster in the woods that's killing people. There's a prophecy that Wednesday's going to bring down the school. There's um, she's developing psychic powers. Her father may have killed someone at the school years ago. The principal was her mom's old roommate. There's just like a lot going on, and it juggles all these balls really, really well. And it's all really held together by, and I kept calling her Jenny Ortega last week. It's Jenna Ortega.
Oh,
She's great. I think some of the cringy stuff is from her because anytime they set her up for some sort of easy pun, easy joke where someone would say like, "Hey, you want to go to the dance with me?" I'd rather stick needles in my eyes, but I'll probably do that anyways. Anytime there's
Mhm.
something sort of morbid,
Yeah.
she's gonna have to be like, "Oh, that was amazing!" Like, "Oh, that scared me half to death." It was the best sensation I've ever felt.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
always that. Every response to anything anybody has, she's laying in the morgue in one of the tray tables, and it's just like, oh, give me 5 more minutes. I'm just getting comfortable. And it's like that shit is so obvious, and some of it works and is funny, and some
Yeah.
of it's just like, that was the simplest, dumbest joke. But she's really good at portraying a lot of emotion with no emotion,
Sure.
just the tiniest little curls of smiles and eyebrow raises. Just everything is so minimal. And she's just really good. And she's the tiniest person in the world. Like Gwendolyn Christie's in it, and she's huge. She
Right.
towers over everybody. But even standing next to normal sized human beings, she looks like she's 12 years old. She's just itty bitty. And she's like 21, 22. She's an adult, but she's just the tiniest little thing. And like Christina Ricci's in this.
I was gonna
So
ask you, does she show up?
yes, she's the girls like dorm mom,
Okay.
and she's all like, and she's also the teacher. She's the like plant teacher. She has a bunch of carnivorous plants and stuff like that,
Oh.
and she's the first normie. All the non weirdos are called normies. She's the first normie teacher at the school, so they're really being all inclusive. Um, yeah, so Christina Ricci is a short lady, and Jenna Ortega is even shorter than her, and she's just itty bitty. But you get through your typical things of like, oh, look at this very nice normal boy who falls for her. Is she gonna fall for him? Oh, the popular girl doesn't like her. Maybe they could find common ground. All the
Yeah, all the
typical
classics. Yeah.
school things, but it's done very well, and especially Thing. Thank God Thing is there. And no, he's just a decapitated. You can't cut the head off a hand, a severed hand running around who can't emote with any sort of facial expressions, but he's like pretty funny, and
Mhm.
it's just nice having her to be able to like bounce things off of. I highly recommend it. 8 episodes, real quick. Especially just watch that first one. It can hook you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll watch it, but
Nah,
it
it's
seems
probably
like
not for
something
you.
like maybe my wife would be into. And if
Yeah,
she's like, "Hey, do you want to watch this?" I'll watch it then. But I don't think I'm going to seek it out. The only thing I've seen from the show, like her dance sequence, is everywhere.
yeah.
Like they're making it seem like it's the greatest scene in
No,
the history of cinema.
it's bad because like she's even said like, I made this up. She did all her own choreography, and it seems like she made it up on the spot. And I've seen a lot of like TikTok dances of people kind of like doing their own version,
Hmm.
and that has kind of created its own choreography that people are replicating. They're not really doing a lot of what she does, and they're not even using the same song, but it's manic
Hmm.
and uninteresting, and I don't see her dancing like Wednesday in general. I don't see her wanting to dance. So it just really seemed like this might be a viral thing, so let's just put it in.
Yeah, yeah. But I think I did see the dance she goes to is called like the Rave Inn or
Yeah,
something, which I was like,
because
that's cool.
Edgar Allan
That's
Poe went
right,
to the
Nevermore. Yeah,
school.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I was just like, oh, that's a great name.
yeah.
If that's not already like a party somewhere, it
Mm-hmm.
should be because the Rave Inn is
Yeah,
an
it's
awesome name.
pretty clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I recommend Wednesday. I'll definitely watch a season 2 if it comes along. Oh, and the rest of the family, like Pugsley's just some kid. Like he's nothing special. He's barely in it. Morticia is played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. Odd choice. She does okay. And for a while, I was thinking it was, what's her name, Sofia Vergara,
Okay.
and I was like, oh, that would have made more sense because the Adams family, they're like more Hispanic,
Mm.
Jenna Ortega and the guy who plays Gomez, Luis Guzman. I think he, like, when you think Luis Guzman as Gomez, like, perfect. That seems like he would nail it. I think maybe 10 years ago he could nail it. I think he's coming off a little old.
Sure.
And he's just like not as sharp as he used to be. And then, do you know who plays Uncle Fester?
Uh, Hank from Breaking Bad.
Fred Armisen. And I did not,
Really?
yeah, I did not know. And so when he showed up, he's only in like one episode. I was like, oh, this is weird. And he does a good job. I really like
Oh, okay.
his Fester. Yeah, but I'd recommend it.
Uh, who plays Cousin It? Is there? I mean,
Cousin It's not in it.
oh, Cousin It's not in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I was gonna say plus Cousin It's just like a
was
Muppet. So yeah. So it doesn't really need.
And there's a guy playing Lurch, but I don't know who he is.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
So let's talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. Real quick, did you like it?
It's fine.
I thought it was cute.
Like there's some good stuff in it. Like I think the Mantis and as Star-Lord's sister is a nice little touch thing.
Yeah.
I think there's some I like the duo of Mantis and Drax together, and they're like back and forths, and like him wanting to go back for the
blow up elf,
the gnome or whatever.
Did you just say gnome? Christmas gnome?
Christmas gnome,
it's
yeah.
An elf, Steve.
Yeah, elf, sure. I think it's a fun idea, but my biggest thing with this whole special is just like, did it need to exist? No,
probably not. But it's nice. I heard James Gunn say the nice thing about this was when you're going into Guardians 3, you don't have to explain like why they own Nowhere. They own it. It just kind of like does some hand waving for us. Like, why is Cosmo the dog there? Was never really part of, or she was never really part of the team. Whatever, they're there now. And so by the time you get into 3, it's just like, what? It's established. And if that's all it, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't hate it. It just seems like, and maybe it's just one of those things where like our universe has gotten so big, instead of spending a ton of money on another film to explain other stuff to get us to the next film, we'll make a little special, which just is the footnotes you need that leads into another thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's just like, I don't care about this thing. Like, you're not making this because you think it's necessarily a good idea or a good story or product. So like, we need to make this so when you see the third one, you're not asking us a bunch of questions so we don't have to explain in this one.
I don't know if that's why James Gunn made this. I think he genuinely wanted a happy Christmas story. I don't think this was made specifically for that sort of stuff. I think that was just a bonus to making this.
Sure. And I mean, I think you would need some stuff to put in this to, make it worth a watch, as opposed to just like, oh, it's Guardians Christmas, and like Star-Lord comes in like Mr. Rogers is like, hey gang, and he's talking to the camera. It's like, I bet you're wondering why you're here. We're your favorite Guardians, and like, here's Kevin Bacon and playing, and like they're just doing like weird bits.
Okay.
Like I thought that's what it was going to be when I heard
more like the Star Wars special.
Yeah, like that's what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Especially now that they're doing sort of these like off-brand kind of stories and like talking directly to the camera or doing black and white. I was like, oh, this would be their like sitcom show or something like that.
I mean, besides She-Hulk and WandaVision.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about.
It'd be like more of a true special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those 70s, 80s classics that we're talking about, whatever. But it just kind of like an hour-long episode of the Guardians of the Galaxy Adventures at Christmas time. But yeah, I mean, it had all the Christmas bits to it, like, oh, here's 2 song sequences, here's some emotional human connection, alien connection, whatever. So it had all the makings of a perfectly good Christmas special. It's just, I don't know if I cared about the Guardians of the Galaxy having a good Christmas. Okay. Like if they did a full movie and Christmas was in the background, because I think you could do some stuff with that. But not that I want to see that in the movie. I'm just saying like you could do that. But it was fine. I'm not upset that I watched it, but if I never saw it, I don't think it would have I'm doubting it would hinder my enjoyment of Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
So you liked Werewolf by Night more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because at least that was original.
Yeah, I would say so as well. But I don't know. I really liked it. I thought it was sweet. I like just the tiny little jokes, like Nebula giving Rocket Bucky's arm. Who cares how she got it? Whatever. Doesn't matter. I like that they all got little dioramas of themselves for Christmas, and like Kraglin's was him opening himself. That's pretty funny.
That might have been my favorite bit. I was like, oh, that's pretty funny.
I like how Groot kind of like got shorter but really like bulked out. He's just huge. I wonder what age he's supposed to be, because he was supposed to be a teenager last time. So is this him in his 20s?
Sure. I'd say like teenage Groot was like 14, 15.
This is like 18,
This is
maybe?
like 18 to 20
Okay.
Groot because he like now he's like dated around on the other alien planets or whatever. He's like, girls said he was like too skinny, so he bulked up. So, you know,
Yeah. Not enough Rocket, but I see it's just like, well, it's a CGI character. We're not spending money on that. We'll do the makeup on these two, humans and put them on Earth to save money. And we're gonna have enough Rocket in the next movie.
yeah.
So
The next movie's
I
all
get it.
Rocket.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
but
but okay.
I like the song that like aliens getting, like telephone information about what Christmas is and how wrong they get it. I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah, Santa's a burglar who breaks into your house and gives you stuff and yeah, all that good stuff. The other thing is, and I don't. It wasn't a big deal to me, but sometimes when you have like alien characters like come to like we've pretty much only seen the Guardians on other planets
Hmm.
and like interacting with like other weird creatures, and they blend so seamlessly into it. But when you like have Drax and Mantis walking down Hollywood Boulevard, it just seems like well now they look
They
fake
look fake.
in
Yeah.
our world, and it's like really jarring because they
Yeah.
really shouldn't because they're next to a normal dude in every movie the entire time,
Yeah.
and we like yeah they came to Earth to like fight against Thanos, but it was this big sweeping thing where like they're really just kind of in the background. So it was just odd seeing it's like you can't blend like even though they're real, like I think Groot and Rocket would look more normal
Yeah.
on Earth than they do, which
Sure.
is weird to say.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that when their ship was coming in and they didn't have the cloaking device on, you had people like some were like screaming like, "Oh my god, an alien invasion!" And other people seemed to be like, "Ugh, here we go
again,
again."
we're tired of this.
And I like I like it's a dumb joke, but I like that how much all the Guardians like hate actors. And it's just a fun, self dig of,
Right, right, right.
making fun of your own profession. But I just love how disgusted they were
Mm-hmm.
with all of it. And I love Mantis. I never, she didn't get enough time. I like Palm Clementif.
Yeah.
She's a cutie, and I love that character. It's just let's put the two big idiots with each other and just let them have fun and let them get drunk. It was good. I like the gay guys hitting on Drax and
Mm-hmm.
him just kind of being like, "No, dancing's for idiots. Let's get drunk." And dumb. This is so stupid. She goes like, "Hey Drax, can you like throw me over the fence?" And he does. And then they're like leaping through yards to catch up with Kevin Bacon. She's jumping twice the height of that fence on her own as they're chasing him. And she's like climbing on walls and stuff. Like, really? You needed him to throw you over the fence? No, your powers, Marvel writers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's get into our main topics. I think
Okay.
that's it. Yeah. What do you want to start with? Violent Night or Bones and All?
Let's do Bones and All because
Okay.
Violent Night I saw most recently, which I imagine you saw most recently.
I saw it hours ago.
Yeah.
I had a feeling you were gonna forget we were gonna do that because I assumed you caught up on Andor and we were gonna be doing Andor today,
mhm.
Andor and Bones and All.
And or
Bones and All, and or Violent Night.
Yeah.
And so I had to make sure with you. It's like, did you see this? Because I would have hated to like paid money for this movie, and then you go, oh shit, I forgot. Not that I disliked it or anything, but if we're gonna
Talk. Yeah.
if we're gonna talk or not talk, like I don't need to spend the $8. But yeah, let's talk Bones and All. So Bones and All, it's been a while. I saw this, the week it came out. So actually, I saw this on Thanksgiving. So
I saw it this week, so it's a little bit fresher.
a little fresher for you. Give us a quick synopsis, Steve.
So Bones and All is a story of a young girl who essentially goes on the run after doing a somewhat violent act. And you come to find out that she has this condition that makes her yearn for human flesh. And she's kind of on the run and on her own until she meets a young boy played by Timothée Chalamet, who also has the same condition as her. And it's just them. She's kind of uncovering more about the world and finding other people who are like her because her whole life she's never met anyone like her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on a quest to find her birth mother, whether she may be alive or dead. And it's just these two characters who kind of fall for each other and get entangled in a road trip, coming of age tale with maybe a more sinister character on their heels.
And that's how I probably would have described it just from the trailer. By the end of it, I felt, what's the point?
I felt the same.
I like the idea of these two people. They have a similar situation, and you got a Bonnie and Clyde or Romeo and Juliet sort of thing. No one else will love us besides this person, so let's just run away together. But hot on their heels is this old man played by
Mark Rylance.
Mark Rylance, uh, because he was spurned by one of them for whatever reason, and like he's just chasing them the whole way, and they're just on the run. But it's not. He only has like two scenes. He shows up, or it's like
Three.
multiple scenes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like he shows up, he talks to her, he they eat together, and then she gets scared, and then you see him catch up at one point, but it's a really short scene, and then the end. And I just felt like that should have been more of the story
Mm-hmm.
of him just on their heels for whatever reason. And by the end of it, it was just like, okay, that was fine, but I had more questions. We'll get into it, but
Okay.
so were you not super thrilled on this?
Uh, it's because once the movie was over, and I agree, it was kind of like, what's the point? That's the thing that's like hurting this movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I, for the most part, kind of enjoyed this movie all the
Yeah,
way through
yeah,
until it was over, and then I was like, did I actually enjoy this movie?
yeah.
Because I think there's some great ideas and some solid performances, and like I think that there's a a great both like artistic and entertaining film here.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't quite get the entertaining one.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, I mean, I'm just gonna give it a rate. Like I'd probably say it's a B minus for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was hoping it to be like a B plus A. But it just didn't quite get there. Uh,
I agree. I'm looking at my. I gave it a C plus.
okay, yeah.
It's better than a lot of things out there, but
Like,
I needed something more than just we eat people. Well, why do you? Oh, we can't help it.
because it's very vague as to like there's no like origin, there's no like
No
nobody.
lore.
Yeah, this movie's set in the 80s. There's
Mm-hmm.
no because a lot of times I was just like, all right, these people are like eating people on a regular basis, and they're running into multiple people like them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's got to be reports of this kind of stuff all the time, but then like the movie never gives you any answers as to like why this isn't uncovered or like
Mm-hmm.
what's happened. But it's like, oh, I guess it's before the age of like cell phones, before the
Sure.
internet, and it's like they're killing people and either eating all of them or like whatever they don't eat. It's like, oh well, you could just write it off as like a wolf attack or
Sure.
something, or it's like, or they kill them out in the middle of nowhere, and so like bugs and stuff will get them. So it's like even if they find the dead person, chances are the people are just going to write it off as like not humans eating another person.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and when we were watching the trailer, she goes to a slumber party and she bites a girl's finger and then she runs away, and the dad's like, I know you had to eat them, and blah. It makes us believe that she ate like all three of these girls on a slumber party. So I thought there was going to be something more than just I'm a cannibal. I thought it would be like unhinging her jaw and swallowing like,
really?
and especially because it's like bones and all. I figured that's why they're not getting caught. They're eating everything every time,
Mhm.
and we don't even. They talk about it briefly. These two redneck guys are talking about like how euphoric it is, and we don't even get anything like that until the very end. And I felt this should have been part of the bigger mythology. Like, yeah, if you just eat, you're constantly having this craving. But if you really want to satisfy yourself, you need to eat every bit of the person, and then you won't have to eat for a long time. But there's some other consequence. You absorb their memories and they haunt you. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, you could go a ton of different ways
It
with it
just
if you want to make it more. I mean, I'm glad that they didn't really go supernatural with
sure,
it.
that's fine.
But because the movie, like you said, is called Bones and All, and you kind of thought like, oh well, what happens when I do?
Yeah.
But they never really go into that. And plus, like, if you do, I just from the context of the movie, because it always seemed like it was somewhat realistic. Whenever you saw the Timothy Chalamet or her like eat, it's not like they all like they ate the whole person in one sitting
Yeah.
because it's not physically possible.
Yeah.
Like they eat their fill and then leave the body there
Mm-hmm.
and then go. So the guy talking about like, oh, have you ever eaten bones and all? It's like, well, that took him days
Mm-hmm.
to do. which like if you're gonna, it's like you have to not only find a place to like keep this person, but like make sure you don't get caught and come back. It's like it's because some of these like they're eating these people, and then like they're just immediately like getting in the car, driving down the road, still
Yeah.
covered in blood.
Yeah.
It's like they're not even cleaning each other themselves up, really.
Yeah, and then you will use that car for days afterwards. Like
Yeah.
someone's gonna report this missing. You're gonna need to dump it, and I think.
But at that point, they're already in like another state, so
Yeah.
like no one's gonna look for it.
I just kind of wish we had a little more of running into other people like this, because we only run into like two people, Mark Rylance and these two rednecks,
Mhm.
and that's it. And it would either be like them both kind of learning more about who they are and others out there, and their place in the bigger world. You either do that or they don't meet anybody, and they think like, wow, you're the only one I've ever met. We have to stick together. And then you have the Mark Rylance character after them. And it just kind of, it doesn't go one way or another. It's just, I'm hungry. Let's eat, kill someone, hang out, pal about, show how cute we are with each other, how much we love each other, maybe have a little tiff, and then repeat. And things get brought up like his troubled past that I don't think. Oh no, that does pay off because he does eat his dad, right?
Yeah.
He does eat him.
Yeah. Well, it's like it just seems to me that every character in this movie, like the girl is the lead, but every side character is way more interesting. But obviously they would be because they've been living this life from the get go, where she's just kind of been caged in her entire life, so she doesn't do this thing where they've been free roam to do it. So of course their lives seem more interesting. But it's like, but because they're more interesting, it's like, give me the Timothy Chalamet movie, give me the redneck movie, but whatever. I think what they should have done is kind of combine Mark Rylance's character with those two redneck guys.
Yeah.
Because one, the redneck guy was way more menacing, and the idea of just like, oh, you guys don't eat a whole person.
Yeah.
That's pretty much. But like also teaming up with, I love the idea of teaming up with a cop who also is into it but isn't one of them.
Yeah.
That's such a cool idea.
Yeah.
And it's like then you have, it's like, oh well, how are they finding me? Oh, the cop has connections, so now I have the police force coming after me with this guy who has this sole intention of eating other eaters, because maybe we like. Because when they showed up, it's like, hey, man, we're not trying to like encroach on your territory. Is that cool? And they're like, hey, man, we're not here to push you out. But it's like, what if there is like you don't come into another eater's area because if there's too many of us in one spot, we're fucking up the ecosystem. Bodies are showing up too much. Like it's bad for business kind of thing. It's like, that's a movie where it's like she could have met Michael Stahlberg. Is that the actor's name? I think that's what his name is. Sure. Like meet him in the beginning as opposed to Mark Rylance, and like he's creepy, he's redneck, and maybe his buddy's away for the day, and it's like, oh, and they come back. It's like, so she goes on the run from him, and then she meets up with Timothy Chalamet, and then that's the movie where they're on the run from him while she's also trying to search for her mom and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just weird to like. It just seems like that was the director going like, oh well, you were in my last film, I want to give you a scene, so I wrote the scene for you to be in. But you're never going to come back, and you never really have any sort of like long lasting effect on the characters other than you say the line that they say the line at the end.
Yeah.
So
and then like, oh, you don't eat other eaters. Is that a respect thing? Is that a like it's gross? What if it's like euphoric to eat someone who eats other people? I just feel like there's lore here that could easily be expanded upon, and then it's almost like they purposely choose not to and try to be as vague as possible. And I guess that's okay, but it just doesn't make for a very interesting story. And I want more than just them just driving around eating people.
Yeah, I mean, all the like eating stuff is essentially just the background stuff to the story of like two outcasts meeting each other, and like, because that was my takeaway from the film. It was about finding your people and finding, it's like no matter who you are, there's someone out there, maybe not for you, but like who understands you. It's like maybe your parents don't get you, and maybe your one parent wants to eat you, so you don't become the thing that she is. But so that was my takeaway. It's just like, oh, you go out there, you find someone who works for you, and like that's the thing. So it's like it's a romance movie with eating people in the background, but it just kind of like rides the line of just like, what's the tone here? What's it really trying to say? Because like I said, once it was over, it's like, oh, that was just fine, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
Um,
And I never got a sense of like you can't control this. You
mhm.
know, she bites that woman's finger right at the beginning, which was
Oh, so gross.
pulling the skin off like it was a glove. Ugh. But it didn't seem like she was so hungry that she couldn't help herself, and she was this blind rage that you see with like vampire movies. It was like she just goes like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna eat this one. We don't see the effect of what happens when you don't eat.
Mhm.
It's just kind of like, I'm hungry, you want to eat a person? Yeah, sure. We see them eat regular food at one
Yeah.
point, so they can do that. And so it's more like a drug, but we don't see the withdrawal.
Mhm.
And that's why I was kind of would have liked to seen if they do eat people, bones and all. You know, they share a human, and like they're almost like like ticks that are super engorged. They have these huge bellies, and then they go into a hibernation or something, and that's how they are able to stay hidden, because they could eat one person, and then if they need to, just disappear for a couple of months and go into this deep hibernation. Something, but there's a whole lot of nothing
Mhm.
here. It's cute. I like them. I want them to work, but really nothing. Not much to it.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed. I thought this was going to be a real good one.
Yeah. I mean, I did really like the last scene where they're kind of like they find each other again and they're like, hey, let's actually just stay together and be boyfriend and we'll get regular jobs. She starts working
Mm-hmm.
in a library and he's doing whatever he is.
I
He's
don't know what
I
he's
don't know if
doing.
they ever established what his
Nah.
job was. Uh, and you know, I think once Mark Rylance comes back, I thought that was a very intense, effective sequence
Mm-hmm.
where they fight it off, and I was surprised Timothy Chalamet died at the end, and he was just like, "Yeah, girl, eat me,"
Eat
and
me.
then she does.
Yeah.
It's like he just died. You're like, I mean, clearly she's sad, like she's losing the one person in the world who like she loves,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like no hesitation to like, all right, well, if you're gonna die anyway, I'll eat
I'll
you,
eat you.
bones and all.
And while he's still conscious, you would think, because they eaten the dead before, just let him pass and then eat. Or maybe he want to be eaten while he's still alive? I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I think he was pretty. From what I saw, I thought she was just kind of like licking up the blood to try and like heal him like dogs do, kind of
Okay.
thing. Like that was my kind of takeaway. She wasn't like full on biting him, just like
Okay.
she doesn't want to hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
And but like I think pretty much he was like on his way out. He was in shock. He wasn't really feeling anything anyway. Because you said you're in shock.
Mm-hmm.
So I from he was gonna be dead within like a minute anyway. So I
Yeah.
don't know how much pain he actually felt. Um, but I mean, I like that ending. It's just it's weird. It's like the whole movie I like. I don't know what I would necessarily change other than like maybe switching up the sort of like the villain storyline. But it, it's weird. It's just like I'm glad this movie exists. I'm glad I
Mm-hmm.
saw it because you know we see so much big blockbuster budget shit. So seeing this was a nice week for me where I saw this movie and Banshees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which like both movies I enjoyed, but both movies was like I get why these movies aren't making a fucking ton of money.
Yeah.
Chalamet only has so much power with the tweens.
The power of Arrakis.
The spice must flow. Yeah.
Spice Malone.
So yeah, it just rides that weird line of like I want to like it more, but also I can't like it
Yeah.
more.
And once again, it's just right in the middle. Wants to like please the audience, but still be artistic. And there was a couple of times where they would do like weird zooms. Do you remember that? It would just like, and it would like, it only
Uh,
happened like 3 times. It was like, oh, okay, it's like our editing is so boring and this scene is so dull. We need to spice it up something. So we'll do these like quick little zooms.
mm,
It's like little things like that you would see maybe a first time director who's all they've done is just watch Tarantino and stuff, and we got to do something cool, and they just throw these little effects in that I don't think work all that well.
I mean, I will say I did like how they Timothy Chalamet kind of picks his victims.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I'm gonna find the biggest dickhead
Yeah.
where I'm at, and then just eat that guy because he
Uh-huh.
probably doesn't deserve to live.
Yeah.
Where like I feel like people like Mark Rylance and Michael Stahlberg's character were just like, yeah, whoever we just find at the time
Yeah.
that we can get away with, we'll eat them, even though you never really see them eat. Oh, I mean, you see Mark Rylance eat that old lady, but after she died, he's
Yeah.
like, I didn't kill her, or like I didn't set her up to die, even though
Yeah.
like she's like, I think you did.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I smelled her dying, so I'm here to eat her when she
Hmm.
passes away.
But he also seems the type that would like grab a little girl off a playground
Yeah,
and eat her specifically because she's a little girl.
yeah, they definitely played up his creepiness. Like he could be not a pedophile, but like someone who's like, I'm gonna eat young people because they taste the best.
Yeah, they're fresh. It's like veal. They haven't really worked their muscles too much.
I mean, but they never establish anything. Like,
no,
he doesn't have a preference for anything. He just has a.
But he does. It's like, please stay with me and let me raise you, and we'll be partners. He gives off the vibe.
Oh, for sure.
Can we talk about Mark Rylance?
Sure.
I don't like Mark Rylance. I don't think I've seen anything that he's been in where I thought he was good. And I don't think I've seen him in anything where I thought the movie was great. He sucks. I think he's kind of a one-note actor.
I mean, I think I haven't seen enough of his work to necessarily agree with you or disagree with you, but it's like, what have we seen him in? It's like this, Ready Player One,
which
and Bridge of Spies, which they're all kind of doing like this weird, like odd voice choice. I don't know what that.
I never saw BFG.
Yeah, I never saw BFG.
Yeah. What's it? The Outfit? Is that him? Is he in The Outfit?
I don't know.
Like a tailor who, like, the mob brings someone in, and it's like a cover shop for the mob, but he's also really good. Yeah. I mean, I want to see that movie. I think that looks interesting, but I just don't like him.
Yeah, I think it's just what we've seen of him is sort of I'm going to do a weird voice because I'm playing that's an old man's interpretation of like, what does a weirdo do? Oh, they talk like, oh, hi there. You want to hang out with me? I'll be your friend. It's like a weird old man Adam Sandler character, which Adam Sandler you really hate. So maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, don't like him. Fuck off.
Yeah, what was his Oscar? Was his Oscar win the Bridge of Spies? Like, what was his big movie that like launched him?
I think it was Bridge of Spies.
Okay.
And I don't think he's like incredibly bad in that, but like that's a boring fucking movie. Whew.
Sure.
Whew.
I remember liking Bridge of Spies, but once again, I don't really remember a ton about it.
Was he in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy? That seems like something he would be in.
I was just thinking that. I was like, because it's just like that whole movie's just old man energy. I saw Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Don't remember a goddamn thing about it.
Yeah, I remember leaving and being just like, what? Am I too stupid for this movie?
That movie was too long, too boring, and too smart for me.
Not for me. Good title though. I like that title.
It's like, this reminds me of like Munich in tone, but I remember like scenes of Munich. I remember liking Munich, even though no one else liked Munich.
I don't like. It seems like people love Munich, but I don't know why.
It's one of Spielberg's lesser remembered films.
Yeah, I think I saw that. It was one Christmas. I was living in a city where I didn't have very many friends, and it's like, it's Christmas Day. I'm just going to go watch movies. So I went and paid.
You saw Munich on Christmas Day?
I saw 3 movies on Christmas Day. I went and paid for one, and then I theater hopped because it was like a 4-story tall theater, and it was very easy to like just hop into whatever. There wasn't patrols. And I think Munich was I can't remember the first one. And then I saw Fun with Dick and Jane. And then I ended with Munich. And so after already being in the theater for 4+ hours, then you watch this long, boring, drawn out thing. So that could have.
Yeah, you should have opened with Munich, not closed.
I probably should have, but I wanted to start with the thing I wanted to see, which ironically is the thing I can't remember what it was. Was it like X-Men 3? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting my years mixed up. But yeah, I don't like Munich. Yeah.
All right.
Is Mark Rylance in Munich?
No, he is not.
Do you have anything else to say about Bones and All? You know what? Just like kind of how Showtime is doing Let the Right Ones In. 10, 15 years, we're going to get a Bones and All show. And they'll really expand upon this concept.
I want to say one thing. When I walked out of this movie, I was like, this is going to be one of those movies where Ben's going to do that thing where he's like, this would work as an anthology series or work as a It's like, we can't keep pitching that idea of just like, oh, this movie works, but it'd be better if we had 50 episodes that explains everything that I want to explain. It's just like, don't pitch me the Bones and All show. If you did it, I was going to tell you to stop because I don't want to hear the pitch.
I'm not pitching it. I can just see it. Someone
Fair
going,
enough. I'll accept that.
this can be expanded. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's get to our other main topic, Violent Night. So Violent Night, starring David Harbour, is directed by Tommy Wirkola. He directed Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, Dead Snow 2, What Happened to Monday. Did you ever see What Happened to Monday?
I did, and I actually kind of liked What Happened to Monday, and I kind of liked Hansel and Gretel.
Oh yeah, I loved Hansel and Gretel.
I don't remember a ton about it, but I remember coming out of the theater. I was like, you know what, that was kind of fun. Even though no one saw that.
Yeah,
movie.
For that concept, which I think a sequel is coming. I think they announced. Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, for a really ridiculous concept that sounds like a This Meets That from Us.
Yeah.
It was pretty good, and I think Whatever Happened to Monday is a pretty interesting story as well. So this is a story of a Santa who's kind of sick of it all. He's over it. The world's shit. Everybody just wants, and nobody just can be happy, and nobody quite believes in him like they used to. And he's kind of done, and he's thinking maybe this is going to be his last Christmas. And there is a family. They're either just separated or they've been divorced. They are meeting up with his family for Christmas. His mother's super rich. His sister is ambitious to try to take over the company, and they're going to just kind of get through one last Christmas with them. And then John Leguizamo shows up and wants to steal, what is it, 300 million, 600 million?
There's a parent vault. Well, I mean, there is a vault in the house that has $300 million.
300 million. They're gonna steal that. And then Santa shows up, and because their daughter Trudy is like one of the last true believers, he rallies and make sure he checks off all the people from his naughty list. And does a John Wick. No, I keep saying that. He doesn't do a John Wick. He does more of a Die Hard.
Yeah, John McClane.
Yeah, he's a John McClane. He gets injured.
They even reference Die Hard in this movie.
Yes. And it's like they mention Home Alone and then they do a Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also written by the guys who did Sonic 1 and 2. Not that has anything to do with anything. Well, okay, good for them. This is a
transition, not translation.
Yeah. This is a pitch that I'm surprised gets made. Because when you hear like Killer Santa, there's a lot of horror movies where Santa is the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get Santa as the hero all too often. So that's pretty fun. But it's just, you say Santa Claus does a Die Hard and kills a bunch of bad guys. And it's like, okay, that's fun enough. We can make that for $5 million. And so this movie doesn't really break the mold in trying new things. It's exactly that. It is just Santa Die Hard. But I think it's pretty successful in doing that. What do you think?
I went in this movie with zero hopes that it would be any good, really. Like I went into it with like, I like the audacity of just like doing something silly like this. Mm-hmm. It's like, but I knew I assumed I wasn't really going to care all about it that much. I thought like, oh, there's going to be some violent scenes, there's going to be some cringy stuff, but it'll just be fun to see Santa kill people. And I was right in terms of like, it was fun seeing Santa kill people because I actually love this movie.
Yeah.
I had so much fun. I liked all the kills. I liked the backstory. I mean, you don't really get a ton of the backstory, but I like that it existed. Sort of like explain why Santa was capable of doing these things. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just like Santa shows up and he has to protect this girl. Yeah. Like there's a reason he's good at doing this, yeah. which they just give you just enough. I was like, okay, I buy it. I think David Harbour looked he was like Jason Momoa in terms of just
hot like Santa. What is this?
David Harbour, I'm going to say it, was a hot Santa. Like his like almost leather jacket, red coat was cool. Like he just looked badass.
Tattoos.
Oh yeah.
And not like ripped. He was pudgy. You know, he had some weight on him.
But I mean, if you look at all the strongest men in the world, they're not ripped. They're just big dudes.
Sure, but he's not even toned.
Yeah.
He's not like the Mountain, who's a big dude and strong. He's like, no, this just seemed like a guy.
Yeah, this is the beer chugging Santa who just happens to be strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I recognize the movie's faults. Like the villains aren't all that interesting. They could have been played essentially by any random character actor. I mean, I like seeing John Leguizamo. I wish he did more stuff.
He was in the menu just like 2 weeks ago. Like, where is this resurgence coming from? Good for him.
Leguizamo. No, there's a better pun out there. But I hope to see him more.
Surgeonamo.
And it's like pretty much by the numbers in terms of like action sequences, but like they just all worked for me.
Yeah.
And like the little girl I thought was adorable. Like she's not like the greatest actress, but I didn't think she was bad at all.
No.
It was just like a movie where anyone other than David Harbour, like you could have replaced any of these actors with any other actors or actresses or whatever, and it would have been the same exact movie. But yeah, I just had a good time, a ton of fun. There was some times where I rolled my eyes at like some jokes that didn't quite work for me, and I'm devastated that they didn't put Season's beatings in the fucking movie.
Yeah.
It was in the trailer,
Yeah.
and they replaced it with like, I'm gonna eat these guys like a bunch of cookies or something. Like that was the line they switched with. I'm like,
yeah,
like it was fine. That's a fine line, but
yeah, the goons are pretty all stupid. You know, I do like the two. I mean, there's three main goons. You have like woman, Swedish guy, and then like psycho dude.
Yeah.
I like the woman and the Swedish guy.
Yeah.
I thought all their stuff was pretty funny, of them kind of slowly realizing that maybe this is actually Santa. Mm-hmm. I like that they actually do start believing that this could be a thing, because in most movies it would just be like, oh no, he's using mirrors and magic, or you know, smoke and mirrors, or there must be two of them. There's no way he could have disappeared and reappeared somewhere else. So I'm glad that right off the bat they're just like, holy shit, this is going to be the actual Santa Claus. Since I have it here, I want to talk about that backstory.
Okay.
I was so excited. The first time they cut to, and he's standing there with his helmet on, and he's just like bloody and breathing heavy. And I'm just like, oh, okay, this is cool. We're going to actually see a Santa Claus origin.
Yeah.
And there's enough information there to just say who he was, but not how he transitioned to who he is.
Yeah.
And I think we needed that. And maybe they didn't because they saw, oh, this is going to be popular. We're going to want to make a sequel to this, and we can flesh out Violent Night origins. But I think it would have been perfect for this to just kind of see, did he make a wish? Was it like a Kratos sort of thing where on the battlefield he's just like, I can't do this anymore, I only want to bring goodwill towards all men, and then lightning strikes and then suddenly he's Santa Claus? Yeah, like what's the deeper lore behind it? And so I was disappointed that we didn't get more of that. There's enough to satisfy, but it's
I have a pitch of where that his origin comes from. Okay, but we'll get to that.
Okay. Yeah, I liked everybody in this except for maybe Dad. I think Dad was in a Jim Carrey comedy. He's a little like, what?
Yeah, it was goofy. Also weird because I feel like I've seen that guy only play villain characters. Like he's just got a very expressive, like villainous face.
Sure.
If you asked me to list the movies where he was the villain, I couldn't tell you, but I was like, I'm pretty sure he's been the villain in like at least 3 things. But yeah, he was doing like. Yeah, he was a little off for me.
He's a little. Everyone plays something. Yeah, it's a comedy, so everything's a little bit heightened, but they're still playing it relatively real. And he's up a few more notches.
I think the other problem is like everyone who was cast in this movie is not a comedy actor, other than like John Leguizamo and David Harbour. Not necessarily David Harbour's a comedy actor, but like he can do comedy because he's talented.
The sister, Edie Patterson.
Well, okay. Yes, I forgot about her. Yeah, but there's like you have the dude from like. Never Back Down as like the douchey actor boyfriend who's just like buff hot guy.
Okay.
And then it's just like it just seemed like you hired talented actors, but like comedy isn't their wheelhouse. So it's just like I think if you brought in like more like if Nick Kroll was the dad or something, like you could have worked with that, or like the hot guy was that dude who was in Date Night. I mean, he always plays like the dumb hot guy.
Yeah. He was in Aladdin. He was the one that was like betrothed to Jasmine.
Yeah. Like,
he's funny.
Yeah, just so you get some people who are known to do comedy, and not like I disliked any of these actors particularly, but it's just like you could have probably like gotten rid of some of those cringe lines, or like that scene could have probably played a little better if you like had an actual comedy, someone with like comedy chops in there.
Well, speaking of comedy, so we have Edie Patterson, probably best known for Righteous Gemstones.
Yep.
And
playing
pretty much playing the same character,
yeah.
which I thought was funny because in that show she's Judy Gemstone, and in this the little girl is Trudy Lightstone. They're very similar.
Yeah.
But she's pretty much playing that same character of just like absolute worst person in the room, and she's great at that. And it made me kind of wish. I wish this was a Righteous Gemstones violent Santa Claus movie. Like, take out this family and put the Righteous Gemstones in with Santa Claus coming, because everybody would have, like, you know, like you said, if you have comedic actors in those roles, it's going to be a lot funnier. And like having
Danny McBride.
Danny McBride would just, I could totally see Danny McBride being the Santa Claus character.
Yeah,
you know, it'd be a lot more like cock and shit jokes. You know? Yeah. You'd be a lot more unlikable. So my main problem with this, and I knew it going in, they show almost every action fight scene death in the trailer. They were just gung-ho about getting like a red band trailer out there so they could say, oh, look at all these cool fucking Christmas themed deaths. And there are some that we don't get to see. Did you have a favorite?
I do have a favorite death, but it's not my favorite sequence of death.
Okay.
Because the best death in the movie is the final one.
That's the most creative.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because when it happened, I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
But
you want to explain it?
Sure. So Santa Claus has beaten all the bad guys except for John Leguizamo, who's the last villain standing. They have a final like one-on-one fight, and because Santa Claus had been like beaten and shot and stabbed and like gotten his ass kicked, like John Leguizamo kind of like is able to get the upper hand on him, even though he's like a smaller guy. And we've seen Santa kind of struggle to use his, like, he taps his nose to go up chimneys, and that's a magic thing. And it's like he's lost the magic for the night, it seems like. But he's able to grab John Leguizamo, and I forget what Christmas badass line he says right before, but he like taps his nose, and he and John Leguizamo shoot up the chimney of like this outside farmhouse. And he comes out top, and he's just holding like the torso of John Leguizamo's. Blood shoots everywhere.
Yeah, because he goes in as like a magical dust, but John Leguizamo goes in as a body.
Yeah, as a body. So he like you're shoving an entire person in this small tiny hole essentially that just like eviscerates him into this shower of blood.
Yeah,
and it's really fun and gross.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking.
Because it happened so quick too.
Yeah, and I knew he was gonna go up the chimney because why else would that be there? Yeah. But I thought he was gonna like do an elbow drop from the top and kill him. I didn't think he was gonna pull him through. There's a scene that I really like and really hate where Santa is in the garage, the storage shed, and surrounded by military guys who all come in, and he kicks their ass one by one, but it's so dark that like he slams something against the wall and the guy's head explodes. I have no idea what he hit him with. There are times you like, okay, I'm assuming that was the hammer. Okay, I think he cut his arm off there. It's just so dark that violence is happening, but you just can't quite tell every bit. Like, yeah, sure, I saw the head getting cut off with an ice skate. That was great. The snow blower pulling in those guys. That was great. But there were some of them that moved so quickly and just not as well lit as it could have been. And you just kind of miss some of the stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that was my favorite sequence of death in the movie, just because I'm always a fan of just like one guy taking out a bunch of dudes and not just taking them out and like, oh, I have a gun and I'm doing John Wick stuff. It's like
headshot every time.
Yeah, I'm a guy who's like sneaking in and out of situations and like pulling you in and killing you with a different item. I think that's always really fun. I agree with you. I think that was to hide some of the technical silliness of it. Like if we make everything black, then it's like it makes sense that he's able to hide from these dudes who are like trained military dudes. So from like a story point, it's fine. But the main thing that bothers me is just like it's the idea of just like, oh, here's a bunch of guys with guns who like you never see fire a shot, or like they come in from 4 different doors. There's 30 of them, and it's like there's one dude who gets taken out like inches. Like it's that thing where like you pull a guy who's like the last guy in, and like no one notices.
No one hears the
yeah, and it's like, but or like doesn't hear the sound of him like pulling a guy. It's like, well, he just chopped off this guy's head. Everyone would point their guns in that direction and go like, all right, just fucking open fire. Who cares?
Surround this fucking building and just shoot.
I don't believe any of these guys would have gotten like surprised by like maybe one or two, but they would have been able to take this guy out. But that wouldn't be a fun movie.
No. And I like that Santa Claus isn't, a god. He takes damage. He gets shot. Like, Santa could fucking die. He's not omnipotent.
Yeah.
He takes a gunshot to the gut and has to, like, sew himself up. I like that he's not all powerful. That would have made it.
He has magic, but it's not, like... I mean, really, the only magic he seems to have is the nose thing.
Yeah.
And he has like magical items, and like maybe he can talk to his reindeer.
He could go up and down chimneys. He just kind of knows everybody. He doesn't have to refer to his list to know who you are. So there is magic, and I like that joke that keeps coming. It's like, well, how did this happen? I don't know. Christmas magic. I don't know how it works. And it's a nice hand wavy way of going like,
it's hand wavy, but I think it works for the character. I think it's just like, he's never really given a shit.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey man, I got this job. I don't know how it works, but it's just what I do. Don't worry about it.
And especially since we don't explain his backstory, it's just an easy way of being like, well, if we explain one, then we're tied to it if we ever are going to explain the other. So we're not going to explain either one and just go Christmas magic.
Because especially in this movie, it's one of those movies where it's just like, hey man, it's Santa Claus killing guys with machine guns. Like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to explain.
You're in on this premise or not.
It's a dumb, like, we know it's a dumb movie from the get-go. Either have a good time or shut the fuck up. Yeah. Like, that's kind of the vibe I got from him. So I'm like, I'm not questioning a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I like that he had like a preferred weapon, as like a Viking. He was like a big hammer dude, kind of like a Thor-esque kind of thing. So like seeing that sledgehammer like lit beautifully in the shed, he's like, Daddy's got to go to work kind of thing. Like it was fun seeing like, I don't think did he ever shoot anybody? Like I know I think it was like he did all like hand to hand sort of like kills.
Which put a grenade in a pants or a Christmas star in the eyeball, but never shot anyone.
Did he say he doesn't like guns? Because I remember he had the machine gun and he tossed it to the girl.
I don't know if he...
I don't think he said I dislike... I don't remember. But anyway, it would have been real easy to like give Santa a gun and like have a scene... Or like, because they had those like they always have like that heavy machine gun. It would have been easy for Santa to grab that and just mow down like 50 guys. But he doesn't do that. Yeah. He's like...
Or he'd pull it out of his bag, you know?
Because he's not a gun guy. He's, I'm a former Viking. I'm going to take a hammer and bash your head in. Yeah. And it was awesome. Super, super fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it as well.
Well, from the emotional side that we didn't really talk about, you find out the son wants to rip off the mom.
Yeah.
He took the $300 million and he was going to get his family back. But then... I mean, I guess they burned $500,000.
Yeah,
everyone's just like, "Don't burn the money." It's like there's so much money.
$300 million.
Yeah,
you're good.
Yeah, you're gonna let Santa Claus die? It's like, no, keep this guy around. He just saved your life, and it's like maybe have Santa Claus as a friend. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought it was weird that they didn't use the fireplace to start the fire.
But like, why did or like pull his body closer?
Yeah,
it was a weird choice.
Yeah, I like that I like that the whole family got to get in on the killing game. Like you have the two like sister-in-laws and one of their son like beat a dude to death with fireplace implements. It was nice that it wasn't just Santa Claus got everything done. No, everybody got to kill someone. I think except for the dad. I don't think dad killed anyone.
Yeah, it's like even though it was not necessarily directly, Trudy kind of killed a person too.
Oh yeah.
Like
that's my favorite action sequence is the Home Alone sequence because it is so painful and just
it's the realistic version of Home Alone. Like everything that God, what's that? What's his name in that movie?
The Wet Bandits or
no?
Marv and
the Macaulay Culkin's character.
Oh.
I'm hearing her yell his name and I can't. Kevin, yeah. Kevin McAllister. Got it.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Damn it. Yeah. It was the like if Kevin McAllister, like all those things he did that would have killed Marv and Joe Pesci instantly, like all those things like actually working.
Yeah, like one dude, this poor guy, it's funny that he like they see the booby traps and they're just like, oh, you dumb kid, you're supposed to hide these, but it's like a double reverse bluff. And one of the steps breaks and a nail that's on the steps goes right into his lower jaw, right under his chin. and is like, that fucking sucks. And then gets hit in the head with a bowling ball or something, falls back and lands on an assortment of random spikes that are all up his butt and in
Yeah,
his
like
back,
super, super long nails.
and like drill bits and razor blades. It's not like
Well, I think
one
the
thing.
first time he falls on, it's all like on his ass.
Yeah,
And then the next time it's on his
on
back.
his back.
Yeah.
But by then he's pretty much dead because he pulls the nail out, holds it up to look at it.
Which was the dumbest,
thing.
I hated that.
Who looks at something like that?
You know what a nail is.
Yeah. But then a bowling ball falls down, hits his hand holding the nail right into his head, and then lands on the spikes again. Brilliant. I just so great. And then she also gets like bowling balls to the head. She gets like, oh, it was a dumbbell.
Mhm.
Got slingshotted into her face. She got glued to the ground
and pulled her hair off
and pulled part of her scalp out.
Ugh.
But I thought it was just funny of her like falling down and having to like, jump herself up. Then
she took off she took off her shoes and then had to step up, like
immediately steps on light bulbs.
Yeah. Then gets all that stuff to the face, and she dies because she's gonna shoot Trudy, and then Santa Claus shows up and like
hits her,
and then kills her with the sledgehammer. He hits her in the chest and then walks over, says something, and then finishes her off. Yeah,
yeah, that was a fun scene, and I could have used a little more of that, but I'm okay with that. I thought it was a good time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie. I gave it a B-. It's better than a lot of things. It's better than it should be.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna go with it's a B for me.
Okay.
Like I kind of almost want to give it a B plus, but I don't know if it's quite there because like there really isn't much of a story or like emotional stuff that worked for me.
If there's one,
but just from a pure entertainment value, it's a great B.
Yeah. If there's one more scene like that Home Alone scene that really elevated, because it's like, oh, the kills, he gets a star in the eye, plugs it in, and electrocutes him. Like, okay, that's interesting, but it's not the most original thing. I think if we had a little bit more, it could have been bumped up for me.
Yeah, like maybe if you did an interesting kill with like the Santa's bag, because like you had that whole scene where he's like pulling stuff out, like it was like so cartoony. He was like trying to find a weapon in his like kid's gift bag. It was like video game. God damn it! But it's like, oh, what if he just like put he put the bag like over a dude and then like it split him, and it's like one half of his body disappeared into like the nether realm. Okay. Or like or like, oh, he like. The guy had a machine gun and he went to shoot Santa and he's like firing to the bag. He puts it over and then like he's able to kill the guy that way by like suffocating him or sending his body to like the nether realm or something. But then like Santa's fighting John Leguizamo at the end and he's like shit, and he like reaches into the bag and like that guy's gun that was in there, he's able to pull it out. Okay. It's like something like that,
I thought you were going to say he's going to shoot and he catches the bullets in it, closes it up, and then when he opens it, the bullets shoot back out.
Or that, like just, you could have done, I think, a fun kill with the bag. I don't know how that would work, but something like that.
He uses the bag and scoops up a guy. And he's just like, huh, that's easy. And then we forget about him. And then at the end, he's flying away. And then you hear like some muffled screams in the bag. He's like, oh, yeah. And then he just lets him go.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. I think you could have done something fun like that. But I don't think I have anything else to say. I just had a real good time. I don't think this movie will make my top 10 of the year.
Probably.
But it's I recommend it to anyone who likes violence and fun.
Yeah.
David Harbour's great, and I would happily see a Violent Night 2, especially since you can.
Origins.
Especially
since you have a pitch, don't you?
Oh yeah, well I have a pitch for not necessarily like what I would want to see in the movie, but it's like this is what I think his origin is.
Okay.
So we see he's this Viking warrior. Probably did some raids, fought in wars, smashed a bunch of heads. He was the most feared warrior on the battlefield, essentially. But very much like Kratos, he's just tired of war and killing people, and he just wants to. He's lived with his sins, and he's maybe murdered women and children. He just feels super fucking bad about it, or maybe he killed a kid, and that's sort of like what caused him to break and like stare off in the distance and go like, "Oh, I am a monster." So he takes a boat, and he's like, "I'm just gonna sail away and just die." And he gets on a boat and
heads north,
and he just heads north, and then he gets to the ice and his boat either wrecks or whatever, and he's just like, okay. So he's walking through the snow trying to find any sign of life or whatever, and then he passes out in the snow, and then he it does that thing in the movies where like he kind of opens his eyes a little bit and you see like this thing coming off in the distance and or
Hmm.
you hear footsteps, and he wakes up and he's been saved by elves.
And are they
And
like little monsters, or are they like people? Like, hey, we found you in the snow. We're here to help you.
I'm gonna go with like you get the guy who I don't even know if he's still alive. The guy who was all the Oompa Loompas in Charlie and Chocolate Factory,
The newer one,
the newer one, yeah.
Roy Deep.
Roy Deep, yeah. You get that guy, and it's kind of like uh, do you call them Inuits? Is that the proper term?
Or
Or
yeah.
yeah, you get like Inuit people kind of like that who like just live in the snow, but they're also you probably can like elf them up a little bit. Like
Yeah.
there's something mystical, but they still look human.
Hmm.
Um,
But they're just little.
but yeah, they're just little. And they just have this toy factory, and like maybe their leader has just died, or their he basically you find this like not cult, but these people who believe in this like otherworldly being who's like this bringer of good and who they
Hmm.
worship, and like that person has died or is on the brink of death, and he's like, uh, you are gonna take over for me. It's like I through my magic I see something greater in you and you want
Hmm.
to atone for your sins. And so he's like he gives him the magic and he's just kind of like, how the fuck does this work? It's like it doesn't matter, man. It's about
Hmm.
doing good. Like
Yeah.
that's the work. And so he just spends the next hundreds of years like trying to atone for his sins by like giving back to the children of the world and all that kind of stuff. And you do something like that, and
Sure.
yeah,
And
that's kind of like that's where I see that story going. It's
and
like he goes off to die, goes north, lands on ice, goes to North Pole, becomes the new Santa. You don't. It doesn't really have to go explain like what this magical being is. It's
no.
just like the Shazam thing. It's like I'm a wizard who gives you powers,
Yeah.
and then he's just Santa Claus,
Yeah.
and this is your mission, and that's why he's able to do what he's able to do.
Sounds perfectly fine to me. And I can see there being a twist on it where like, oh, you reward the good kids and punish the naughty kids, but like you're supposed to be harvesting the souls of these naughty kids. You're supposed to be instilling fear and like, oh, I got this job all wrong. And so whoever gave him his power, that guy's like boss is just like, yo, it's been 1,000 years. Where's all my souls?
Oh, so the sequel is like the anti-Santa coming back. And it's like
Yes.
I'm here to collect the souls of all the children of the earth, and so like he's got to. Well, now I got to fight Saint Dick or whatever.
It'd be Krampus,
Oh,
it'd be
Krampus, of
something like
course. Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that
Yeah.
could be fun. And then I don't know if I necessarily want to see. Well, it's like, do you do Santa fights a supernatural, or do you just Santa fights more humans? It's like, well, we saw it in the first one. It's
Yeah.
like, do you
No.
like ramp it up to the extreme, or do you just find like, or is it just now Santa Claus versus is like now Santa Claus John Wick stuff, where it's like I'm taking on hordes of guys versus like one house.
And I don't think you make him fight humans because he's found his Christmas spirit and it's like, yeah, there's good people out there and the bad people deserve a chance to become good again.
Mm-hmm.
These people were good at one time. They can be good once more. And this Krampus character is just trying to like, nope, I'm harvesting all the naughty people on the list all at the same time. And it's like, that's unfair. And so you have Santa fighting, like Krampus would have his own sort of like anti-elves. He would have his own version of that.
Oh, so you just see like in the
Elves
snow,
versus gremlins, kind of
oh, just
fighting.
big Lord of the Rings style battle
Yes.
sequence.
And
Okay,
and
I'm
so
into this now.
Santa fighting through hell or whatever the hell it is, to go like, no, this is not what the Christmas spirit is all about. And like, no, there was no such thing as a Christmas spirit. You've just kind of bastardized this sacrificial tradition that we've always had and turned it into something it's not. So
Mm-hmm.
this is going pretty big,
Okay.
because I think that I could see the studio saying, well, we need Violent Night 2, Santa in the big city. And now it's like at some corporate greed event where they're Coke parties and, all the evil men of entertainment industry and the oil industry. And they're all coming together to do this horrible thing. And Santa's going to like beat up all these guys. I could see them just wanting more of the same. I want some more origin. I want to know more about him. What happened with Mrs. Claus? Is Mrs. Claus who he was married to when he was human and she got kind of cursed with him? Did she die and after years he had to find a wife? Like I need to
Oh
know
yeah, I
more
didn't even
about
think
that.
about Mrs. Claus because I
Yeah.
think didn't it early in the film like Mrs. Claus isn't around or she's
Yeah, it's like
it made it seem like she was dead or something like that.
no, because she wrote him the
But
note
then
at
she
the
wrote them a
end.
note at the
Yeah,
end. Yeah, yeah.
and so I think they're just separated, or they're having a hard time
Mm,
because he's still wearing the ring. So either he hasn't let go, or they are still married and they're just going through a rocky time.
mm.
Let's have David Harbour versus Tim Allen Santa Claus. We just got a
Jesus
Santa
Christ.
Claus Disney Plus show. Can we, because that show seems to be really, or that movie series seems to be really good about lore. There are rules,
Yeah.
and why you have a Mrs. Claus, and why is he fat, and yada yada yada. So like, can we merge these two? Can we get Tim Allen doing a John Wick?
No, I don't want to see that. Don't do that.
Okay, all right.
But now I'm excited about an army of elves, but they're Christmas elves,
Mm-hmm.
just doing a big old battle
Yeah.
with Santa and Krampus. That'd be cool because we haven't seen that. I mean, we've seen Krampus stuff, we've seen plenty of Santa stuff, but we haven't seen like Santa in a big battle sequence, other than Guardians of the Seasons or whatever that movie was called.
Oh, Legends of the Guardians.
Legends of the Guardians,
Yeah.
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 Because I think wasn't Santa tattooed in that? And he was kind of
Yeah.
badass.
And it's Alec Baldwin, I think.
Oh yeah.
And he's not called Santa.
I remember liking that movie.
That movie's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why didn't that get more? There's lots of holidays out there. You could have kept adding to this big team of superhero holiday characters. It's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess I could see that being a route that they go. It's like, oh man, we can't defeat Krampus. I gotta call in the guys.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you have Easter Bunny, and I don't know.
I'm an Easter rabbit.
I mean, I guess it's just you would just be pulling from
it'd be
the Guardians thing
Yeah.
again. Because who was the villain of? Was it Krampus?
no. It was. I don't know. I don't remember, but it wasn't Krampus.
Yeah.
I think it's like dark energy monster.
Yeah, I remember. But I think it was like was it like Father Time or something? Like
Oh.
No, Father Time wasn't he one of the people on the team?
No, I don't think so.
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Okay. We only have a few more weeks to create our like best of the year. I got to see Avatar before I make that list. Everything else could kick rocks, but we got to do our looking back and looking forward episode before the end of the year. We got a lot of stuff. The only thing I really care to talk about before the year is over is Andor, and which will probably be next week.
Next week, yeah.
Next
I'll have
week
it done
will
by
be
then.
Andor. And then the week after that is Avatar 2. And then I think anything after that, who cares? Let's focus on what's our best of the year. We'll redefine our list of what was the biggest bomb and predictions for next year and things like that. Did you figure out what it was?
The villain was played by Jude Law, and his name is Pitch.
Okay.
But like Santa Claus' name is North.
Yeah.
So it's just like they all have names that are like related to what they are, but aren't. They're like.
Is he just like an eternal darkness monster? I don't know.
It just the synopsis is when the evil spirit Pitch launches an assault on Earth, the immortal guardians team up to protect the innocence of children in the world. Pitch Black. That's the villain. Pitch Black. So he's just a shadow creature.
Isn't that what I said? Did I just say shadow monster?
Yeah, but I thought like there was some
There's
lore
something bigger,
that I was like, oh, he'd be a something. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, cool.
Edit around all that bullshit.
Yeah. So next week, Andor. Maybe I'll finish God of War by then. Doubt it. I'm so much slower than you are, but I'm gonna try real hard.
If you just put in like 6 hours a day, you got it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, 6 hours a day.
Not even, because you could probably beat it in under 40.
And how many hours did you take?
It was between, I think, 35 and 40.
Okay. And if I'm
but I was doing like a bunch of the side stuff. There's some side stuff you can skip if you really wanted to.
I'm already like 9 hours in, so
Yeah.
I
mean, there's a point where it's like they pretty much tell you just like, hey, you want to do anything before we head off to that final thing? You can. I was just like, you know what? I'll kill some time, and I was doing some stuff. I was like, shit, this shit is fucking hard. Yeah. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm at the end. Let me beat this thing because I know I can do all this stuff later.
All right. If you want to get in contact with us, you can reach us at WRPLpodcast@gmail, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. What's your favorite Christmas movie? What's your favorite Santa Claus kicking ass movie? Is there another movie where Santa Claus kicks ass?
Santa Claus versus the Martians.
Yeah, but I think that's more of a diplomatic thing. I don't think he's really like
No, I know.
fucking him up. So yeah, hit us up. And as always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Good night. Santa could fucking die.